is no different. So, by the way, some other people that he's floating for his cabinet, Susan Rice, one of the biggest warmongers, she actually believes in preemptive war. She believes that you got to go to war first in order to defeat your enemies, people that she lists as enemies. He's thinking of her for the option for Secretary of State. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. This is stepping backwards is what this is. So, no, I will not vote for Joe Biden. When what this will do is everybody who, the majority of voters, they are just living their lives. They're not like you and me. They're not hyper political. They're not paying attention at every turn. They're living their lives. They turn on the news. They're exhausted by the news. The news is just bad news all the time. And they're stressed out and they just don't want to deal with it. And all they're hearing from the news, if they're turning on CNN or MSNBC, or if they're turning on Fox, depending on which narrative they're hearing, is that one side is awful and we've got to defeat that side. That's what they're hearing. And so the average voter is not realizing that both sides are just two sides of the same, that it is really just one party. And the only difference is one claims to not be racist. But when it comes to economic policies, when it comes to foreign policy, both parties are pretty much the same. And those economic policies and those foreign policies are what are ruining our lives. They're stealing our homes, they're raiding our bank accounts, and they're taking our children and sending them off to war to die. That is what they are doing to the middle class and to the poor. And yet, everybody on both sides buys into the boogeyman narrative and says, oh, but we've got to defeat the monster sitting on the other side. And for the left, it's the orange monster. And on the right, it is AOC and Nancy Pelosi. They're looking at them, and look, both sides have their faults. Both sides are definitely feed into this. But at the end of the day, the real enemy is the crony capitalism and the War Department of our government. That is our real enemy. People have to wake up to this. And if Joe Biden wins, people will go back to sleep. At least right now, we've had this opportunity during the movement to get people to wake up to the crony capitalism. We've had Bernie Sanders shouting at the top of his lungs, talking about the greed and the corruption and the unfairness. And people have been listening and hearing him and saying, all right, even people that weren't really totally sold on it, maybe they're big Clinton people, but this time around they're thinking, well, you know what, maybe this is the way forward to defeat the orange monster. And since I want to defeat the orange monster more than anything, then I should listen to this Bernie Sanders guy and maybe see what he has to say. And so at least it was opening up their ears. At least it was opening up their hearts and minds. If the Democrats win with Joe Biden, then they will go back to sleep and they will say, see, we told you so. Your little movement was a failure, and we're not going back to that. We need to stay in this moderate right lane. What is going on right now is that the Democratic establishment's strategy is to become the Republican Party of Mitt Romney, John McCain, and George W. Bush. That is their strategy at the moment. They're thinking that the way forward is to gain those soccer moms in the middle of America who are typically Republican, but they're just so disgusted by Donald Trump and what he's doing that they instead could vote for Democrats if Democrats build the right type of coalition. And the coalition that the Democratic Party has shown us that they want to build is one that is center-right. It is the old Republican Party, not the new Republican Party of Donald Trump, not the populist Republican Party, but the old Republican Party. That is what they're showing us that they want to build. So reports are, by the way, that Joe Biden might for VP. Now, some of the insiders are saying you should pick Elizabeth Warren as VP. I'm going to tell you the only way to gain progressive votes with Joe Biden as a nominee. I'm going to get to that here. I know that's the title of this thing. But some of them are saying that they are thinking about they're trying to get him to put Warren in, but it sounds like Amy Klobuchar might have been offered the gig. Watch this video.
I could not think of a better way to end my candidacy, as hard as that was to do with our beloved staff and everyone else, than to join the Joe Biden. Kidding.
Yeah, she's just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay. So Amy Klobuchar, who is obviously, she's proudly middle of the lane.